This recent murder of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, it's got everyone talking, and
Yeah.
and not just the crime itself,
Nice.
but
Yeah.
is it the motive ill will toward corporate America? I mean, that's chilling.
It is chilling. And
Ah.
what's striking is that the suspect, Luigi Mangione, well, he came from privilege. You know, he had a great upbringing,
Hmm.
stellar student, very promising career in tech, and it just seems paradoxical.
It really does.
Yeah.
You think someone with everything going for them
Right.
wouldn't be, harboring these feelings against the very system that he was
Yeah.
thriving in. I mean, he
Hmm.
was living the dream that a lot of people
Yeah.
aspire to, especially in the tech world.
Yeah, and that's where things get interesting.
Okay.
So there's a theory, and I want to emphasize theory, that
Sure.
Mangione might have been influenced by the ideology of Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber.
Okay.
I know it sounds like a stretch, but there are some intriguing parallels.
Okay, I'm all ears. So for those who might not remember, remind us who Kaczynski was and what his deal was.
Okay, so Ted Kaczynski was a mathematical prodigy who became disillusioned with technology, and he
Yeah.
became a domestic terrorist.
Right.
He's infamous for his bombing campaign that spanned almost 2 decades, targeting individuals he saw as symbols of technology that he despised.
Hmm.
But perhaps even more chilling was his Manifesto Industrial Society and its future.
Right. The Manifesto, I vaguely remember this. Didn't he argue that technology was leading us all down a path of destruction, basically?
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
Kaczynski really believed that technology, while appearing to offer advancements and convenience, was actually a tool for social control that erodes human freedom and autonomy. He argued that it created a society where humans were increasingly dependent on these complex systems that we've built and leading to a loss of individual agency.
So in his eyes, technology was making us slaves to the very systems that promised progress.
Precisely. And, he felt that technology was a tool for powerful institutions to control us and manipulate us, not to empower us. And the worst part is he saw this happening with people willingly participating,
Right.
even embracing their own subjugation.
It's unsettling how that seems to resonate with some of the anxieties we see today,
Right.
even among people who are deeply embedded in the tech world.
Exactly.
Is that what you're getting at with the possible Mangione connection?
Yeah, it's too early to say definitively, but I do think it's worth exploring.
Okay.
Like Kaczynski Mangione was a product of the system he seemingly turned against. They both had these successful careers in fields driven by technological advancement.
Right.
And both seem to have reached this breaking point, this moment where they saw the system as flawed,
Right.
even dangerous.
So could Mangione have been radicalized by Kaczynski's ideas? I mean, it's not like they knew each other, right?
Right, there's no evidence of a direct connection, but
Yeah.
Kaczynski's manifesto is widely available online.
Wow.
It's not hard to imagine someone like Mangione who already, had this resentment
Yeah.
towards corporate America stumbling upon it and finding validation in his feelings.
Yeah, it's a chilling thought. So if we're going to explore this potential link further,
Yeah.
we need to dive deeper into Kaczynski's ideology.
Yeah.
What were some of the core arguments that he laid out in his manifesto? What were his biggest fears about technology?
His main argument was that technology, despite its apparent benefits, was leading to a loss of freedom and autonomy.
Okay, but haven't humans always been dependent on systems to some extent? I mean, we live in societies. We rely on each other for goods and services. What made technology so different in his eyes?
He believed that modern technology was different because it created a level of complexity and interdependence that was unprecedented in human history.
Right.
He argued that as technology advanced, individuals were becoming increasingly specialized.
Right.
Their skills and knowledge becoming narrower, more reliant on these specific tools and systems. And this specialization, he felt, made people more vulnerable and less able to function independently.
So he saw technology as a double-edged sword, bringing progress, but also making us more reliant and, in a way, more fragile.
Exactly. He pointed to things like our reliance on complex infrastructure, electricity grids, transportation systems, global supply chains,
Right.
all very complex.
Sure.
And he argued that these systems, while seemingly efficient,
Yeah.
also made us incredibly vulnerable to disruption.
So in his mind, technology was not only eroding our freedom on an individual level, but also making society as a whole more susceptible to collapse.
That was a core part of his thesis.
Wow.
He argued that a major societal breakdown, whether it's triggered by a natural disaster, economic collapse,
Right.
or even intentional sabotage, would be catastrophic in a world so reliant on technology. He envisioned a scenario where people stripped of the technological crutches that they've come to depend on would be unable to cope.
It's a bleak outlook, but not entirely without merit. I mean, we've seen glimpses of this vulnerability in recent years with things like cyber attacks, supply chain disruptions, even the panic buying that occurred at the start of the pandemic.
Exactly. Those events highlight our dependence on, these seemingly invisible systems that we often take for granted.
Right.
And for someone like Kaczynski, those vulnerabilities were a sign that we were headed down a dangerous path.
Okay, so he saw technology as creating a kind of societal fragility, a dependence that could ultimately lead to our downfall. But didn't he also talk about the psychological effects of technology? Something about it making us less fulfilled, less human.
He did. He believed that technology was disrupting what he called the power process, which he saw as this fundamental human need for exert effort to strive towards goals and to overcome challenges. He argued that this process was essential for our well-being, that it gave our lives meaning and purpose.
And technology was interfering with this process by making life too easy.
That was his contention. He argued that by removing the need for struggle, by automating tasks and providing instant gratification, technology was depriving us of the satisfaction that comes from overcoming challenges.
So in his view, technology was making us soft, robbing us of the resilience and sense of accomplishment that comes from hard work and perseverance.
Precisely, he worried that a life devoid of meaningful challenges would lead to a sense of emptiness and dissatisfaction, potentially driving people toward destructive behaviors. And this is where the potential parallel with Mangione becomes even more intriguing.
Because Mangione, despite his privileged life and apparent success, might have been experiencing that very same emptiness, that lack of fulfillment that Kaczynski warned about.
It's a possibility worth considering, perhaps Mangione's immersion in the tech world, a world that often prioritizes efficiency and convenience over meaningful connection. And real-world challenges might have contributed to a sense of disconnect, a feeling that something was missing in his life.
It's all incredibly thought-provoking and more than a little disturbing. But I have to ask, are we giving Kaczynski too much credit here? I mean, he was a terrorist, a criminal. Can we really take his ideas seriously?
That's a valid question, and one that's difficult to answer definitively. But I think it's important to remember that even the most extreme ideologies can contain kernels of truth insights that resonate with people on a deeper level.
So even if we reject Kaczynski's methods, his violence, and his call for the overthrow of society, there might still be value in examining his critiques of technology.
Exactly. And in the case of Mangione, exploring Kaczynski's ideas might help us understand, at least in part, the possible motives behind his alleged actions.
It's definitely a complex and unsettling topic, but one that feels increasingly relevant in our technology-driven world. We'll continue this deep dive, delving further into Kaczynski's philosophy and exploring how his ideas might shed light on Mangione's alleged actions.
Sounds good.
Stay with us.
So before we kind of delve further into Kaczynski's philosophy, I think it's crucial to understand the context of his writings. His Manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future, was written in a time of rapid technological change, very much like what we're experiencing today.
So are you saying that his fears about technology weren't just some crazy ramblings, that there was a real basis for his concerns?
Yeah, Kaczynski was a highly intelligent individual. A Harvard graduate with a PhD in mathematics. He wasn't simply a paranoid recluse. He was really a keen observer of societal trends and technological advancements. And he saw something in those trends that deeply disturbed him.
Okay, so he was coming from a place of genuine concern, even if his methods were extreme and ultimately criminal.
Exactly, and that's why I think it's worth revisiting his ideas. Not to condone his actions, but to understand those anxieties that might have driven him, anxieties that might still resonate with some people today.
You mentioned earlier that one of Kaczynski's main arguments was about technology disrupting the power process.
Yes.
You said this was about the human need to struggle to overcome challenges. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure.
What exactly did he mean by that, and how did he see technology interfering with it?
Okay, so Kaczynski believed that for most of human history,
Right.
our lives were defined by this constant struggle for survival.
Okay.
You know, we had to hunt for food, build shelter, protect ourselves from the elements and predators.
Right.
These challenges, while difficult,
Yeah.
gave our lives meaning and purpose.
So he was saying that we evolved to thrive on adversity, that overcoming obstacles is in our DNA.
That's a great way to put it. And he saw technology as disrupting this natural process,
Oh.
you know, by making life easier, automating tasks, providing instant gratification.
Right.
Technology was, in his view, robbing us of those essential challenges.
So things like ordering food with a few taps on our phone,
Okay.
having climate-controlled homes, instant access to information entertainment, all of this was making us weaker, less resilient.
That was his concern. He felt that by removing the need to struggle, you know, we were becoming complacent,
Right.
losing our edge and ultimately our sense of purpose. He even argued that this could lead to a kind of societal malaise, a feeling of emptiness and dissatisfaction that could manifest in destructive ways.
It's an interesting idea, and it does seem to resonate with some of the societal trends we're seeing today.
Yeah.
Things like the rise of anxiety and depression,
Right.
the sense of alienation that many people feel despite being more connected than ever.
Exactly. And it's this potential connection to broader societal issues that makes Kaczynski's ideas so compelling, even disturbing, because if he was right,
Yeah.
then the very technology that promises to make our lives better, to connect us and solve our problems,
Right.
might actually be contributing to a deeper sense of unease and discontent.
And this brings us back to Luigi Mangione.
Yes.
We still don't know the exact contents of his writings, but the fact that the police are exploring a possible link to Kaczynski suggests that there might be something in those writings that reflects a similar kind of disillusionment with the technological system.
Absolutely. And while we can't speculate on Mangione's specific motives,
Right.
I do think it's worth considering how Kaczynski's ideas about the power process
Okay.
might relate to someone like Mangione, someone who seemingly had it all, but might have been experiencing a profound sense of emptiness and lack of purpose.
So are you suggesting that Mangione's privileged upbringing, his success in the tech world, might have actually contributed to his alleged actions?
Yeah.
That he was, in a sense, a victim of the very system he was a part of?
I wouldn't go so far as to say victim, but I think it's plausible that Mangione's environment, his immersion in a world that prioritizes efficiency and convenience,
Right.
above all else, might have left him feeling unfulfilled, lacking a sense of meaning and purpose.
It's a fascinating, albeit disturbing thought.
Yeah.
We're so conditioned to think of success
Right.
in terms of material wealth and social status that we often overlook the importance of deeper, more intrinsic needs.
Yeah.
The need for challenge, for purpose, for connection to something larger than ourselves.
And those needs, those fundamental human drives don't just disappear
Right.
because we have access to the latest gadgets or live in a world of abundance.
Sure.
If anything, they might become even more pronounced. In a world where our basic survival needs are met and we're left grappling with those existential questions of meaning and purpose.
So what you're saying is that even in a world of technological marvels, even with all the comforts and conveniences
Right.
that modernity offers, we can't escape our fundamental human nature,
Right.
our need for struggle, for growth, for connection to something that gives our lives meaning.
Exactly. And perhaps Kaczynski, for all his flaws and the horrific nature of his actions, was tapping into something profound, a truth about human nature that we've been ignoring, or at least downplaying in our rush toward progress.
And that truth, that uncomfortable reality, might be what connects Kaczynski, the reclusive terrorist, to Luigi Mangione, the seemingly successful tech worker who allegedly committed a horrific act of violence.
Right.
It's a chilling thought, but one that we can't afford to ignore.
Agreed. And as we delve further into Kaczynski's writings, I think we'll find even more insights that shed light on this potential connection. Insights that challenge our assumptions about technology
Okay.
and its impact on our lives, both individually and as a society.
This is getting really deep, and I have a feeling we're only scratching the surface. We'll explore these ideas further. Stay tuned as we continue to unpack the complex and unsettling world of Ted Kaczynski and his potential influence on the alleged actions of Luigi Mangione. We've been discussing some pretty heavy stuff. You know, Ted Kaczynski's anti-technology manifesto and the potential parallels with Luigi Mangione's alleged actions.
Right.
It's all very unsettling. But I'm curious, beyond the theoretical connections, what did Kaczynski actually propose as an alternative? Did he have any solutions, any vision for a better future?
Well, his solution was, to put it bluntly, radical. He advocated for a complete rejection of technology and a return to a more primitive way of life.
Okay.
He believed that industrial society was inherently destructive.
Right.
And that the only way to save humanity was to dismantle it entirely.
So basically go back to living in caves and hunting with spears.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound very appealing or realistic for that matter.
Agreed. His vision was extreme and impractical for most people.
Right.
But I think it's important to understand the underlying motivation behind his rejection of technology. He wasn't simply a technophobe who hated gadgets.
Right.
He saw technology as a symptom of a deeper problem. A problem of human hubris, our insatiable desire to control and manipulate the natural world.
He believed we were overreaching, playing God in a way that was ultimately destructive.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
He felt that our pursuit of technological progress had blinded us to the unintended consequences. The ways in which technology was altering our relationship with nature, with each other, and even with ourselves.
So even if we reject his solution, his call for a complete technological reset,
right,
there might still be valuable lessons to be learned from his critique.
Yeah.
It's about being more mindful of the trade-offs we're making, the potential downsides of our relentless pursuit of progress.
Precisely. And I think that's where the real value lies in exploring Kaczynski's ideas. It's not about romanticizing a pre-industrial past or rejecting technology outright.
Right.
It's about asking those critical questions, challenging assumptions, recognizing that technology is not a panacea, that it can create problems as well as solve them.
It's about finding that balance, that sweet spot where we can harness the power of technology without losing sight of our humanity, our connection to the natural world, and the values that truly matter.
Exactly. And I think that's a message that resonates deeply with people today, even those who might not be familiar with Kaczynski's work. We see it in the growing interest in mindfulness, in sustainable living, in movements that emphasize community and connection over consumerism and individual achievement.
It's like there's a collective yearning for something more, a recognition that the current trajectory isn't sustainable, that we need to find a different path, a way to integrate technology into our lives in a more balanced and humane way.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. And that's where I find hope even in the face of something as dark and unsettling as the Mangione case.
Yeah.
It suggests that we're not just passively accepting the dictates of the technological system, that we're starting to question its assumptions and to seek out alternatives.
So what can we do if Kaczynski's solution of rejecting technology is off the table?
Right.
What are some practical steps we can take both individually and collectively to steer technology in a more humane direction?
I think it starts with awareness, with recognizing the potential pitfalls of technology and being more intentional about how we use it. We need to set boundaries to prioritize real-world experiences, to cultivate habits that promote well-being and connection.
So things like limiting screen time, spending more time in nature, engaging in face-to-face interaction, pursuing hobbies and activities that bring us joy and connect us to something larger than ourselves.
Exactly. And it's not just about what we do, but also about what we consume. We need to be more discerning about the information we take in, to be critical of the messages we're bombarded with, and to seek out diverse perspectives.
Because not all information is created equal, right?
Right.
We need to be aware of the biases, the agendas, the potential for manipulation that exists in the digital world.
Absolutely. It's about developing media literacy skills, learning to identify misinformation, and being skeptical of sources that seem too good to be true. And it's about supporting independent media outlets and journalists who are committed to truth and accountability.
So we have a responsibility to be active, engaged citizens, both online and offline. We can't just passively consume whatever's being fed to us through our algorithms.
Right.
We need to be shaping the information landscape, demanding better from the tech companies that control so much of our digital lives.
I couldn't agree more. We need to hold those in power accountable, advocate for policies that prioritize human well-being over corporate profit.
Right.
And to support the development of technologies that empower individuals and communities rather than exploiting them.
It's a tall order, but it's essential if we want to create a future where technology serves humanity rather than the other way around.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
And it's clear that the conversation about technology's impact on society is far from over.
Indeed. And if there's one thing I hope our listeners take away from this deep dive,
Yeah,
it's that we all have a role to play in shaping that future.
absolutely.
We need to be asking tough questions, challenging assumptions, and demanding better from the technologies that are shaping our world.
Well said. The future is not predetermined. It's a choice, and it's up to us to decide what kind of world we want to create.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the complex and often unsettling world of technology and its impact on society. We'll be back next week with another fascinating topic. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.